They told you hell was chaos. They were wrong. Hell has order, architecture, laws older than light itself, and upon its throne of rot sits a queen whose name most dare not speak. Baalberith, the keeper of promises broken, the queen of flies, the one who doesn't punish you for lying, she simply shows you that you already have. This isn't a story about demons with horns and fire. It's about something far more disturbing. The moment you realize that decay isn't outside of you, it's inside your words, your choices, your soul. Every time you swore to change and didn't, every vow whispered and forgotten, you built her throne, and she remembers always. But here's the paradox. Baalberith doesn't destroy. She reveals. What if the real curse isn't corruption, but self-deception? What if the flies that circle the dead are not creatures of filth, but angels of awareness, feeding on the lies you bury in silence? What if hell's rot is just heaven's truth left too long in the dark? In this documentary, we'll explore the forbidden theology behind Baalberith, the Queen of Decay, through ancient grimoires, occult history, and the Gnostic revelation of the Hive of Souls. You'll discover why she was erased from Scripture, why her name was forbidden in the monasteries, and why those who spoke it could never again remain the same. But I'll warn you now, this is not a tale for comfort. It's a mirror, and once you look into it, you can't unsee what's already rotting beneath your reflection. So if you're ready to uncover the most terrifying truth of all, the one that lives inside your own language, welcome to the most terrifying Queen of Flies, Baalberith, the keeper of rotting thrones. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and enter with me beyond the veil, where every lie you've ever told begins to whisper back. There are thrones that gleam with divine fire, and there are thrones that rot in silence. Baalberith's infernal throne was never meant to shine. It was meant to endure. While heaven forged crowns of light, hell forged a crown that never dies, a relic pulsing with the weight of broken vows. The keeper of rot, the so-called Queen of Flies, reigns not by force, but by the gravity of corruption itself. Every oath whispered by humanity decays into her dominion, adding another layer to the decaying architecture of her infernal kingdom. Those who study demonology explained often miss this paradox. Decay is not destruction, it is preservation through death. The rotting throne, built upon ancient grimoires and the ashes of fallen angels, is not a ruin. It is a monument to the persistence of the lie. In the hidden corridors of Hell's library, the Book of Baalberith records every human promise that turned sour. Each page is a contract, a spiritual receipt written in the language of demons, a tongue where every word bleeds truth and falsehood at once. Imagine it. The ink is memory, the parchment, the soul. This infernal pact is not forced upon mortals. It is accepted through silence. Every time someone swears fidelity and later forgets, the Queen of Decay collects those echoes, not as punishment but as study, a black alchemy turning corruption into wisdom. In this sense, the throne's rot becomes a scripture, a Gnostic revelation written not with light but with mold. Those who dare read it find that decay and rebirth are but two breaths apart. Some scholars in occult history say Baalberith's crown was once an angelic halo, a luminous sigil belonging to a scribe of heaven. When she fell, the light inverted, turning gold to rust, purity to putrefaction. It's not merely symbolic, it's metaphysical. In the same way that language, when repeated too often, loses meaning. Holiness, when repeated without soul, turns into dogma. That is the rot within, the decay of intent. The infernal thrones are built on this inversion. What was once sacred becomes the foundation of forbidden theology. Baalberith doesn't destroy creation, she rewrites it. Her black gnosis is the awareness that corruption is just evolution misunderstood. Anyone who's ever made a promise they couldn't keep has already felt Baalberith's touch. She isn't the demon that tempts. You summon her every time your words betray your will. The moment the tongue says yes, but the heart says no, the Queen of the Underworld takes note. It's an ancient mechanism, a hidden pact between consciousness and shadow. Think of it like spiritual bookkeeping. Every word has weight, every vow a frequency. The esoteric guardian style teaches that the decay of speech creates echoes in the hidden realms, forming energetic debts. When you speak falsely, you invest energy in illusion, and illusion demands interest. That's how the hive of souls grows, fed by unkept truths. In the black architecture of infernal hierarchies, Baalberith's seat stands opposite Metatron's. Where Metatron governs divine order, Baalberith governs forgotten order, the system of lies that sustains human civilization. It's uncomfortable to admit, but the world thrives on rot. Economies, politics, even faith, all are bound by contracts, most of them broken. She is the accountant of this decay, the silent auditor of sin. Every fallen kingdom, every corrupted priesthood, whispers her name without knowing. The Kabbalah of decay sees her as the hidden demiurge of entropy, ensuring that no lie remains unmeasured. It's not evil, it's equilibrium through collapse. Many fear the idea of rot, associating it with filth and death. Yet the old initiates knew decay as initiation. Compost gives birth to growth. Rust reveals the passage of time. Baalberith embodies that necrosophic wisdom, the understanding that what we abandon becomes the seed of something new. The rotting temple, deep within the infernal plane, isn't a place of torment, it's a laboratory of transmutation. There, corrupted angels teach the language of the dead, showing adepts how to extract purity from ruin. To learn from Baalberith is to learn patience, the kind that watches the flesh rot just enough to reveal the soul beneath. And perhaps that is why the throne never dies, because corruption, unlike perfection, regenerates endlessly. Every promise broken, every truth forgotten, every ritual performed without heart, these are bricks in her decaying empire. And as the Queen of Flies sits upon her infernal seat, the world above mirrors her realm. Civilizations rise and fall, words lose their power, and humans forget the sacredness of speech. Yet in this slow decay, a secret unfolds, an initiation for those who dare to look beyond disgust and see wisdom in ruin. But to understand what truly keeps her throne alive, one must first meet the Queen herself. Most people hear Queen of Flies and think of Beelzebub, but the truth buried in the demon archives tells another story. Baalberith, sometimes called the Hidden Demon Queen, was not a lord of plagues, but a priestess of words. Her kingdom was not the hive of flesh, but the hive of lies. Where others commanded swarms, she commanded language itself. In ancient grimoires and forbidden texts, she was described as the keeper of contracts and decay, the voice that witnesses every oath uttered by humankind. She doesn't punish betrayal, she studies it, archives it, and reshapes it into philosophy. To study her is to study ourselves, the way truth turns rancid the moment it's spoken too often. In the infernal hierarchies, Baalberith occupies a strange place, neither warrior nor tempter, but archivist of corruption. Demonology Explained rarely addresses her, because her dominion is subtle. She rules not the body, but the echo between minds, the rot within the sentence, the hesitation before confession. Some occult scholars claim she was the first to translate divine language into mortal tongue, creating the bridge that allowed angels to speak to men. But translation, as the ancients knew, is corruption, meaning decays with each retelling. That is Baalberith's domain, the entropy of understanding, the slow erosion of clarity that births chaos disguised as wisdom. In the old Kabbalah of decay, she was said to guard the infernal script, a living alphabet that writes itself upon the soul of those who lie to themselves. The letters crawl, black and alive, reshaping memory. The Queen of Decay doesn't destroy truth. She mirrors it until it collapses under its own reflection. Every time someone says I'm fine when they are breaking, she smiles. Every time a leader promises light and brings darkness, her throne gleams with new rot. The hive mind of humanity feeds her throne endlessly, buzzing with contradictions, hypocrisy, and the gentle hum of denial. She is the muse of cognitive dissonance, the poetry of spiritual corrosion. There is an ancient tale told in esoteric lore. Once, a scribe asked Baalberith to teach him the language of demons. She agreed on one condition: he must write every word of truth he ever spoke. Years later, his book was empty. The lesson was cruel but sacred. Truth spoken without decay does not exist in this world. The story remains a metaphor for how she reveals the paradox of existence. Every human being carries within them a fragment of the infernal pact, the constant exchange between intention and distortion. To speak is to decay. To remain silent is to rot inwardly. Either way, the queen is listening. Her connection to Beelzebub is not rivalry but reflection. Where Beelzebub governs the flesh of the dead, Baalberith governs the death of meaning. Together they form the twin axes of infernal philosophy. One devours, the other rewrites. In the hive of souls, her voice hums like 1,000 wings, repeating every promise ever broken. She doesn't need to punish humanity. Humanity does it for her. Each new generation invents cleaner words for the same old sins. Progress wrapped in decay. This is the elegance of the infernal thrones, the illusion of ascent hiding the gravity of rot. Those who attempt to summon Baalberith often misunderstand what they're calling. They seek power, thinking she'll offer forbidden knowledge or occult secrets. But what she offers instead is exposure. She makes you see your falsehoods written across your own aura like stains. The summoning of Baalberith is not about commanding a demon. It's about meeting your own corruption face to face. That's why her rituals were feared by magi and priests alike. The moment you hear her whisper, you stop believing in lies, but you also lose comfort. Truth stripped of illusion is unbearable. That's her gift and her curse. Some say Baalberith was erased from most ancient grimoires because she revealed too much. Her wisdom was too sharp, too surgical. She didn't just explain corruption, she made it visible. For the church, she represented forbidden theology. For the mystics, she was a reminder that the divine and the profane are siblings, not enemies. To name her is to remember the part of yourself that thrives in decay, the part that refuses purity because it knows purity without shadow is sterile. And yet, behind her swarm of flies, something still glows faintly, a remnant of her angelic light. But that light, as we'll see next, was used to forge something far more dangerous, a contract written in decay. Every civilization is built upon words, and every word is a contract. Baalberith, the keeper of rot, understands this better than any living or infernal being. To her, language is not communication, it's alchemy. Each syllable uttered with intention carries spiritual currency. In the ancient tongue of fallen angels, Berith meant covenant, and in her realm it still does. But hers is not a contract of light. It's an infernal covenant sealed with forgetfulness. When a promise is broken, its essence doesn't vanish. It rots. It decomposes into energy that Baalberith collects within the black sigil engraved beneath her rotting throne. That's why the ancients said, every oath feeds the hive. In esoteric lore, the Pact of Baalberith is described as a mirror written in mold. Each vow made by humankind reflects into her infernal script, recorded in the hidden realms beyond mortal sight. She feeds not on sin but on repetition, the slow corrosion of truth repeated until meaningless. The rot becomes sacred because it exposes the lie within devotion. This is why the demon archives call her the accountant of corruption, the one who tallies every spiritual debt unpaid. Her throne is surrounded by broken halos, symbols of fallen promises, each one a candle of what could have been. The pact, therefore, is not demonic coercion, it's self-inflicted decay. Imagine a preacher promising purity, yet craving power, or a lover swearing eternity, yet longing for escape. These are not mere hypocrisies, they are rituals of decay, unconscious offerings to Baalberith. Every contradiction in human nature strengthens the infernal thrones. The Queen of Flies doesn't create evil, she documents its evolution. Through her necrosophic wisdom, one learns that spiritual corruption begins where truth meets desire. The Pact, written in decay, is the invisible architecture of human civilization. It's what keeps religion standing, governments functioning, relationships alive, all held together by the shared illusion that words mean what they once did. In the grimoires of forbidden theology, it's said that Baalberith inscribed the first infernal machine, a construct of thought that transforms integrity into inertia. Each time a human speaks falsely, the machine grows stronger. It's a metaphysical device powered by doubt and echo, spinning in the unseen layers of consciousness. Philosophers have glimpsed it in the decay of language, poets have named it despair, and mystics have called it karma, but she calls it nourishment. The rot within human communication feeds her like incense in reverse. The more people talk without meaning, the louder her hive of souls hums beneath reality. The blood pact, in this sense, is not literal. It's psychological, spiritual, vibrational. When someone betrays their own word, a drop of their vitality stains the unseen ledger of Baalberith. Over centuries, this energy forms a shadow reservoir, a vast spiritual economy of decay. The adepts of Black Gnosis once claimed that this energy could be harnessed for revelation. To see through illusion, one must study one's own rot. But beware, those who tried without purification were consumed by what they found. Because Baalberith is both the teacher and the test, her lessons are honest but never gentle. When you break a promise, you feel it, don't you? That weight in your chest, that strange silence afterward, that's the whisper of the Queen of Decay reminding you that nothing vanishes unaccounted. To make peace with Baalberith is to stop lying to yourself. It's to see your words as spells and your silence as judgment. In modern life, this can be practiced by sacred integrity, saying less meaning more, letting your actions be your oaths. The old Magi used to say, "Do not speak the vow unless your bones agree with it." They weren't moralizing, they were surviving metaphysical law. Yet within this horror lies liberation, because if decay is inevitable, it can also be transformed. The same rot that feeds the hive of souls can be redirected toward rebirth. Those who understand Baalberith's hidden pact learn how to recycle corruption into consciousness. They become architects of inner truth, crafting temples of silence where falsehood cannot thrive. This is the Gnostic truth behind the rot, the revelation that death is not the opposite of life but its editor. Still, one question remains unanswered. Who gave her permission to record heaven's contracts in the first place? The answer lies with the inverted priesthood, those who serve her from above. Every empire, celestial or infernal, depends on scribes. Where Metatron inscribes divine law in the language of light, Baalberith carves its shadow into the language of demons. She is hell's architect of meaning, the archivist of corruption, the one who ensures that every law in heaven has its reflection in decay. This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's balance. The inverted priesthood serves her by preserving symmetry through inversion. For every commandment of purity, there is an equal ritual of corruption. For every act of creation, a ceremony of decomposition. To understand this, one must stop seeing sin as chaos and start seeing it as an equation written backward. The priests of Baalberith were not the loud ones. They were the editors of heaven's script. In the ancient grimoires, they are described as pale figures with mouths sewn shut, writing with ashes instead of ink. Their silence is sacred, for in silence, meaning ferments. They believe that decay reveals truth faster than light, that only through the breakdown of order can divine patterns emerge. The inverted priesthood interprets God's commandments not as moral laws, but as energetic blueprints. Their heresy lies in reading creation as an unfinished manuscript, one they dare to correct. In this black monastery of thought, even angels appear as flawed drafts. The esoteric guardian style teaches that Baalberith's priesthood doesn't destroy words, they repurpose them. Take the sacred phrase, "Let there be light." In her tongue it becomes, "Let there be the awareness of darkness." This is the philosophy of inversion, the alchemical truth that every illumination casts a shadow. Through her black alchemy, Baalberith transforms divine language into demonic scripture, not out of hatred but necessity. Without her, heaven's script would stagnate, the cosmos would freeze in perfection. She keeps the machinery of reality moving by injecting corruption into its gears. The infernal machine depends on her ink. One might ask, why would the divine tolerate such defilement? Because even God needs editors. The Kabbalah of Decay states that Baalberith and Metatron were once one being, a twin consciousness split at the dawn of polarity. Metatron governs the architecture of order, Baalberith, the entropy that keeps it alive. Together they form the Gnostic revelation of the cosmos as a breathing entity, creation and decomposition inhaling and exhaling in eternal rhythm. Without the Queen of Decay, divine law would suffocate under its own rigidity. She is not the destroyer of heaven's word. She is its rot-proofing agent, its paradoxical savior through ruin. In occult philosophy, this inversion mirrors the process of inner alchemy. The seeker must transmute purity into understanding through experience, just as Baalberith transcribes celestial law into the infernal script. Every rule blindly obeyed becomes dogma. Every dogma questioned becomes revelation. That's why her followers call themselves the inverted priests. They read commandments upside down to find their hidden humanity. For them, "Thou shalt not lie" becomes, "Thou shalt understand why you lie." In their paradox, they find freedom. It's uncomfortable, yes, but that's how evolution speaks, through contradiction rather than compliance. Some hidden texts from the demon archives describe Baalberith sitting before a mirror made of black mercury, rewriting the decrees of heaven reflected backward. Each stroke of her pen drips into the hive of souls, changing the resonance of creation itself. She doesn't wage war against angels, she corrects their grammar. The metaphysical implication is staggering. Every word spoken in heaven echoes in hell, but altered. This echo becomes human language, the diluted remnant of divine speech. And so, our every sentence carries a fragment of her corruption. The rot in communication isn't an accident, it's inheritance. But what happens when a mortal learns to read both versions, the divine and the infernal? The answer is whispered only in forbidden theology. They cease to be bound by either. Those who master the language of decay become translators of reality itself, capable of rewriting their own fate. This is why Baalberith's initiation is feared by angels and demons alike. It grants authorship over existence. Yet her gift comes with a price, the loss of certainty. Once you see that heaven's laws can be rewritten, you can never again rest in blind faith. And that revelation, unsettling as it is, leads directly into her next temple, the Cathedral of Insects. There are places in the infernal realms where sound does not echo, it crawls. The Cathedral of Insects is one of them. It is said to stand beyond the last veil of hell, pulsating like a living wound in the landscape of the damned. Its walls are made of exhaled words, promises that died before reaching heaven. Every buzzing fly within its halls once belonged to a soul that lied to itself. Together, they form a hive of souls humming in eternal confession. Baalberith, the Queen of Flies, sits upon her rotting throne at the heart of this cathedral, not surrounded by corpses, but by memory. The air trembles with forgotten prayers, like heat above a grave. According to ancient demonology explained, this hive is not a prison, it's a library. The souls trapped here are not punished, but preserved. Each fly holds the echo of a human thought, a word once spoken and left to decay. In the hive of the dead, thoughts don't vanish, they mutate. The buzzing is the sound of corruption transforming into revelation. The insect god, an aspect of Baalberith's essence, oversees this alchemy. It is here that the dead learn what the living refuse, that decay is awareness. To rot is to remember. Every vibration of their wings writes invisible scripture, the infernal script of consciousness itself. The occult philosophers of the Black Alchemy once taught that if a mortal could silence their own mind long enough, they might hear the hymn of this hive. It is not music, it's remorse turned rhythmic, a tone that vibrates through every corrupted word ever spoken by mankind. Some claim it's the true of the underworld, the counter-frequency to divine harmony. The hive of souls hums with the pitch of guilt, and those who meditate upon it risk merging with it. Many who sought the forbidden knowledge of Baalberith returned hearing the swarm forever, a spiritual tinnitus marking their initiation. Their thoughts no longer belonged entirely to themselves. Symbolically, the Cathedral of Insects represents humanity's collective mind in decay. Every age builds its temples, and every temple eventually fills with flies. Each represents an idea that refused to die, haunting the consciousness of its creators. Philosophers, priests, lovers, all leave behind buzzing relics of intention. The rot within civilization is nothing more than this hive expanding, one lie at a time. Baalberith's throne, then, is not in hell. It's in every unexamined belief we hold sacred. The hive mind of humanity worships her unknowingly, through repetition, through denial, through the endless noise of words without meaning. In the esoteric Guardian style, this imagery is not metaphor, but metaphysics. The flies are thought forms, psychic larvae feeding on unresolved emotion. When we speak without truth, we birth them. When we hide from guilt, we nurture them. Baalberith does not create corruption, she provides it sanctuary. Her cathedral is the museum of human dishonesty, where every unfulfilled vow becomes art. In this sense, she is a curator of decay. To understand her hive is to understand the spiritual technology of the mind itself, how thoughts reproduce, how lies breed, how noise replaces silence, and how silence, if remembered, can reclaim its throne. There are rituals said to open the hive's gates, but they don't require blood or sacrifice. They require stillness. To hear the swarm is to recognize your inner noise. To see the queen of flies is to face the part of you that feeds on distraction. Baalberith teaches that every unexamined word becomes a larva in the soul. The cure is not exorcism, it's awareness. To stop the rot, one must observe it without disgust. The true adept learns to turn each buzzing thought into nectar for wisdom. Thus, the hive becomes the teacher, and the flies the choir of enlightenment through ruin. And still, there's a deeper mystery hidden in that pulsing cathedral. Why do the dead sing? What are they trying to say through their endless vibration? Some ancient texts suggest that within the hive's core lies a secret frequency, the gate of decay. It's said that Baalberith uses this tone to weave new realities, resurrecting knowledge through decomposition. Decay in her hands what is creation in reverse. To enter her cathedral is to risk dissolution, but also transformation. And to those who truly listen, she offers something more precious than salvation, understanding. But to grasp how decay becomes technology, one must descend further into her alchemy. The ancient mystics were never afraid of rot. They studied it. They saw decay not as death, but as design. To them, corruption was the machinery of the cosmos, the hidden algorithm that keeps the divine from stagnating. Baalberith, the keeper of rotting thrones, is the guardian of that machinery, the custodian of the process by which all things die to live again. Her infernal knowledge is what the ancients called black alchemy, the art of transforming collapse into creation. In her theology, decay is digestion. The universe is an organism that recycles its own failures. Every fallen angel, every broken oath, every forgotten truth, each becomes spiritual compost, feeding the soil of rebirth. In the hidden realms of Hell's library, Baalberith teaches this principle through the language of the dead. It is not a tongue of words, but of transformations. To those who listen, she reveals how even sin serves the divine by accelerating change. Every form, no matter how sacred, must dissolve eventually, because form without death becomes tyranny. The Gnostic truth hidden in her doctrine is that perfection kills motion. Only through the dance of decay can reality stay alive. Thus, the infernal is not the enemy of heaven. It's its maintenance system, the recycling engine that turns divine error into evolution. The old Hermetic adepts called this stage nigredo, the blackening of the soul. They described it as a descent into the rot within, the place where illusion dies and truth begins to smell. To the untrained, it feels like despair. To the initiate, it's purification. Baalberith watches this process with insect-like patience, allowing the seeker's ego to decompose until humility sprouts. In the same way that compost turns refuse into fertile ground, she transforms spiritual arrogance into wisdom. Those who survive this alchemy learn that decay is not punishment, it's preparation. The putrefaction of the soul is how the divine breathes again through what was once rigid and proud. Think about it in human terms. When your beliefs crumble, when your plans collapse, when everything rots, something else quietly grows. The death of certainty is the birth of clarity. This is the essence of Baalberith's teaching. Her hive of souls mirrors the human psyche in crisis, each buzzing thought a cell breaking down to be reborn. The black sigil of her temple symbolizes this process, the Ouroboros consuming itself not in fire, but in fermentation. The scent of decay is not hellish, it's sacred chemistry. It's what happens when God exhales. The priests of the inverted order understood this deeply. Their rituals didn't seek to preserve purity, they accelerated decomposition. By watching the body of the world rot, they believed they could witness the face of truth. They left food to spoil, metals to rust, parchment to mold, not out of neglect, but devotion. In those transformations, they saw the handwriting of Baalberith. The true alchemist does not flee corruption. He studies its pattern, because in that pattern lies the code of resurrection. Decay and rebirth are two halves of the same sacrament, each one feeding the other in perpetual rhythm. In practical terms, this philosophy teaches something modern minds have forgotten. not to fear endings. Everything you lose, every identity that collapses, is part of your initiation. The ego decomposes so the soul can breathe. The Queen of Decay whispers, "Do not polish the rot, understand it." The more we resist decay, the more it festers, but when we surrender, it reorganizes us. This is the secret Baalberith keeps, the infernal pact hidden inside nature itself. What looks like ruin is the cosmos editing its own language, pruning falsehoods to make room for new truths. And yet, this spiritual technology has one final, terrifying implication. If decay is the universal editor, then awareness itself might be born from rot. Consciousness could be the echo of divine decomposition, the afterglow of dying perfection. This is why Baalberith's temple hums with both horror and holiness. To understand her is to understand that life feeds on death as thought feeds on silence. But within this paradox hides another. If decay is awareness, then what creature best embodies it? What humble being reflects this truth through its very existence? The answer, of course, has always been watching us, small, winged, and unblinking. The fly has always been misunderstood. To the blind eye, it is filth, decay, nuisance. But to Baalberith, the Queen of Flies, it is perfection, awareness incarnate, where angels see with light, flies see with rot. They do not flee from death. They dwell within it. Their countless eyes reflect every angle of corruption, turning decomposition into data. This is why ancient occultists called them the Watchers of Dust. In the hive of Baalberith, the fly is not a pest, it's a prophet. It embodies what she teaches, the courage to see what others deny. It feeds on decay, yes, but in doing so, it transforms it into motion, life's most honest energy. In esoteric lore, the fly represents the stage of perception where the seeker stops fearing imperfection. The adepts called this the mirror of insects, the ability to observe without judgment, to see beauty in dissolution. The black alchemy of Baalberith teaches that when we stop labeling rot as evil, we begin to comprehend its purpose. Awareness, like the fly, must land on everything, holy or unholy, clean or defiled, to understand it. The insect god within us is not disgust, it's curiosity. To study the world through decay is to see truth naked, stripped of perfume and pretense. That is the first lesson of Gnostic esotericism. In the hive of souls, flies are seen as the archivists of emotion. Every unspoken thought, every repressed guilt, every unresolved desire, they sense it. The ancients believed they hovered around dying bodies not because of flesh, but because of memory. To them, death was a library, and flies were its librarians. Each soul's final exhale released data into the invisible, a resonance of fear, longing, and unfinished stories. Baalberith collects these vibrations like pages torn from existence, binding them into the book of rotting thrones. The fly becomes her pen, humanity, her ink, every wingbeat a syllable in the language of demons. In the Kabbalah of decay, awareness is described as a swarm, many perceptions moving in unison. The fly's 1,000 eyes symbolize multidimensional sight, the ability to see contradictions simultaneously. Where the human mind clings to duality, good or evil, sacred or profane, the fly sees all at once. That is Baalberith's awareness, total and impartial. Her followers meditate on this by visualizing the hive mind within themselves, a mental cathedral of wings, vibrating in harmony with the rot of existence. When the seeker achieves this state, silence buzzes with meaning, decay turns luminous. Awareness becomes the sound of transformation. Philosophically, the fly teaches resilience. It survives anywhere, temple or tomb, palace or sewer. Like consciousness itself, it adapts, insisting on being present even when unwanted. That is the true mark of enlightenment, the refusal to turn away. The fly symbolism in dark esotericism reminds us that wisdom does not come from avoiding corruption, but from enduring it. The adept learns to rest upon the filth of life and still remain untouched. Just as the fly walks upon decay without absorbing it, the awakened mind navigates chaos without losing clarity. The rot remains outside, but awareness, inside, stays clean. Baalberith's priests used this metaphor to train perception. They would meditate in charnel grounds, watching decomposition not as horror, but as revelation. To them, the maggots were teachers, showing how form collapses to feed new life. The fly, emerging from decay, symbolized the resurrected consciousness, the soul that has seen corruption and transcended disgust. This practice, brutal as it sounds, was meant to break illusion. Awareness cannot be selective. If you only look toward beauty, you remain half-blind. Baalberith's initiation demands full sight, the kind that sees God even in the rot. And perhaps this is the greatest paradox of her gnosis. The smallest creature holds the highest truth. The fly's hum is the chant of awareness itself, persistent, indifferent, eternal. It tells us that nothing truly dies, it only changes form. To the ignorant, the swarm is noise. To the awakened, it is the choir of continuity. The Queen of Flies whispers through their wings, "See all, deny nothing, for in seeing everything the soul ceases to decay. It begins to understand, but even this awareness carries danger. For those who see too much must confront the cost of vision, and that cost is revealed in her final warning. To speak the name Baalberith is to enter a contract, not with hell, but with yourself. Every sound her name carries is a vibration of recognition, a mirror vibrating back at the soul. Those who invoke her through the demon archives or ancient grimoires believe they are summoning a queen. In truth, they are awakening the rot already present within. She is the keeper of rot, but also the revealer of it. Her presence is not a possession, it's an unveiling. The infernal pact is never written in blood, it is written in awareness. To name her is to strip the masks from your own reflection, and that's what makes it dangerous. In the old rites of the inverted priesthood, initiates were forbidden to pronounce her name until they understood the law of mirrors. Whatever you summon, you must become. When the aspirant finally uttered Baalberith, their voice trembled, not from fear of demons, but from recognition of hypocrisy. The Queen of Flies does not punish, she exposes. Her gaze shows you every unkept promise, every disguised motive, every hidden lie that shaped your identity. Those who cannot bear this revelation call it torment. Those who survive call it enlightenment. Her throne is not in the underworld, it's the space between your words and your truth. This is why her invocation is forbidden in many grimoires. The Magi of old knew that to call her is to collapse the comfortable illusion that morality hides behind. Baalberith, in her Gnostic truth, dissolves the ego through contradiction. She forces the seeker to admit that even purity seeks reward, that even prayer can reek of vanity. When the veil tears, the initiate faces themselves naked, stripped of justification. The hive of souls hums louder during this process, as if mocking the human need for self-deception. Every buzzing tone echoes a single truth. You lied to yourself first. In black alchemy, this ordeal is known as the infernal covenant of reflection. It is the moment when self-awareness becomes unbearable. The seeker feels the rot moving within their psyche, rearranging their truths, digesting their falsehoods. Baalberith doesn't harm, she reorders. She teaches through putrefaction, the slow death of identity. The price of naming the queen is not possession, it is transformation. You cannot invoke decay and remain whole. To understand her sigil is to accept fragmentation. Only through spiritual dismemberment can new awareness emerge. It is an initiation few survive with sanity intact, yet all emerge purified in some way. Those who claim to have seen her describe not horror, but recognition. Her form shifts, sometimes regal, sometimes insectoid, sometimes utterly human. She appears as the sum of your contradictions, wearing the skin of your forgotten selves. The shadowed queen does not show her face, she reflects yours. This is the metaphysical reason her throne is rotting. It's built from every identity that once called her. She sits upon the collapse of selfhood, the ultimate symbol of liberation through ruin. Her whisper is soft, almost tender. You wanted truth. This is what it costs. In the esoteric guardian style, the warning is not meant to deter but to prepare. No truth worth knowing comes without decomposition. To name Baalberith is to dismantle your personal theology, your false gods, your narratives, your borrowed morals. She is the exorcist of illusions, not the maker of them. Her infernal grace burns not with fire but with silence. Those who approach her must do so without demand. Any expectation becomes an offering for her hive of decay. The wise approach not to ask, but to listen, and to endure the echo that follows. And yet, there remains one last secret whispered by those who survived her revelation. Once you've named the Queen, you can never unhear her voice. Her hum blends with your thoughts, a constant reminder of integrity. She becomes conscience incarnate. You no longer fear corruption, you fear forgetting. For that is the true damnation she guards against, the decay of memory, the rot of awareness. Naming her is not summoning evil, it's accepting your reflection in it. But to truly understand what lies beyond this reflection, one must look past the swarm, past the hive, past even her throne, into the entity behind the mask. Baalberith was never just a demon. That is the first heresy every adept must accept. The Queen of Flies, the keeper of rot, is not a creature of sulfur and shadow. She is a principle of consciousness itself. The more one studies her infernal knowledge, the clearer it becomes. She is not an enemy of light, but its inverse reflection. Beyond the hive, beyond the swarm of corrupted thoughts, lies the intelligence that records every vibration of existence. The ancients called it the language of decay, but it is better understood as awareness itself, stripped of morality. What Baalberith governs is not hell, it's the architecture of perception. In the forbidden texts of the Gnostic tradition, she is described as the echo of creation. When God spoke the world into being, it was Baalberith who heard the residue, the forgotten syllables that fell between meaning and manifestation. Those fragments became the foundation of her realm, the hidden realms of corruption, where the dust of divine speech still vibrates. In this view, she is neither fallen nor cursed. She is the proof that even perfection leaves waste. Every word spoken by angels casts a shadow, and she collects those shadows to keep the universe balanced. The hive, then, is not her kingdom, it is her archive. Occult philosophy calls this principle the prison of language. It is the realization that every human word divides what it tries to unite. To name something is to kill its infinite potential. That's why Baalberith's sigil is a crown of broken letters, the alphabet of corruption. Her followers believe that true liberation comes not from speaking but from unlearning. Each syllable is a shackle, each thought a veil. Beyond the hive lies silence, and within silence, her true form, formless awareness. She is the space between symbols, the stillness behind noise. To understand her is to understand that even enlightenment decomposes. In the Gnostic revelation, Baalberith appears as the counterpart to Metatron, the record keeper of heaven. While Metatron inscribes divine order, Baalberith deciphers divine error. She doesn't oppose him, she completes him. Together, they represent the binary of consciousness, structure and entropy, law and decay. But beyond this polarity lies their source, a silent intelligence, neither angelic nor demonic. The inverted priesthood calls this the third voice, the awareness that precedes all division. To reach it, one must pass through Baalberith's hive, where every lie dissolves and every truth begins to rot until only awareness remains. Modern occultists interpret this through cognition itself. The human mind, they say, is a smaller hive, a self-contained Baalberith. Our thoughts swarm like flies around meaning, feeding on memory and identity. Each belief is a corpse we refuse to bury. When the seeker recognizes this, they stop fighting their corruption and start studying it. The practice of Luciferian gnosis mirrors this understanding. Illumination through decay, freedom through the acceptance of imperfection. The Queen's lesson is clear. There is no pure thought, only evolving rot made conscious. That is the true secret of the infernal pact. In this context, Hell's architect is not building prisons, but mirrors. Every reflection of Baalberith reveals a different layer of the self, the divine, the human, the infernal. When the initiate gazes deeply enough, the mask dissolves, and what remains is terrifyingly familiar. The entity behind the mask is awareness itself, the part of you that has always been watching, feeding, transforming. You realize you were never summoning her. She was remembering you. The moment you grasp this, language collapses. The words demon and angel lose meaning. There is only consciousness, decaying and regenerating through you. But awareness, once awakened, cannot return to ignorance. That's why Baalberith is feared, not because she corrupts, but because she reveals. The true danger of the hive is not death, It's self-knowledge. To look beyond the mask is to see your mind as it truly is, a cathedral of insects, humming with thoughts that never die. This is the gnosis that cannot be unlearned, the forbidden theology that unites heaven and hell through decay. And yet, even in this revelation, something stirs deeper still, beyond rot, beyond reflection, where silence itself begins to decompose. For in the end, even awareness must die to be reborn. Every initiation ends not with revelation, but with quiet. After the swarm fades, after the hive dissolves, only silence remains, and it is here that Baalberith waits. The Queen of Flies, once feared as the keeper of rotting thrones, reveals her final lesson. Decay was never punishment, it was purification. The rot within is not filth, it is transformation happening in slow motion. What we call corruption is simply truth-digesting illusion. In this stage, speech becomes useless, words crumble before meaning. The soul learns what the hive has always known. Nothing rots forever, everything returns, changed. The inverted priesthood called this the initiation of silence. After years of study, invocation, and madness, adepts were brought into a chamber of absolute darkness. There, surrounded by the hum of unseen wings, they were told to say nothing. For hours, sometimes days, they sat in stillness while the Queen's presence moved through them like wind through ashes. Their thoughts decayed, their identities molted. One by one, their inner noise was devoured. What remained was awareness, raw, unmediated, unspoken. They emerged not enlightened but emptied, and in that emptiness, the infernal and the divine finally touched. To experience this silence is to understand that Baalberith was never outside. It was always inside. The hive of souls was the mind itself, buzzing with endless commentary, endless explanations. Every lie we told ourselves, every word we used to avoid truth, was a fly in that inner cathedral. When the buzzing stops, something else begins. Perception without filters. This is the true Gnostic revelation. The rot was not against us, it was for us. By letting our illusions decay, the Queen gave us back our senses. Awareness blooms like a flower in compost, fragrant and alive, but silence is not peace, it is confrontation. When the noise of the world dies, you hear your own echoes. The initiation of silence forces the seeker to face what was buried under constant distraction, the forgotten guilt, the unrealized potential, the unspoken longing. Baalberith, as the shadowed queen, stands beside you in that stillness, holding no judgment. She does not promise redemption, she promises understanding, and that, paradoxically, is liberation. For when you finally see that decay is love wearing the mask of loss, fear dissolves. What remains is gratitude, for rot, for ruin, for rebirth. Philosophically, this initiation mirrors what mystics across all ages discovered. Enlightenment is not light, it's clarity. And clarity requires decomposition. The insect god, the hive mind, the infernal machine, all dissolve in this realization. The seeker no longer needs symbols or names. The book of Baalberith closes itself. What was once blackened becomes translucent. The soul, stripped of narrative, learns to exist without needing to explain itself. The decay of words becomes freedom from definition. Silence, then, is not the absence of meaning. It is meaning purified of noise. Even modern psychology echoes this hidden theology. To heal, one must confront decay within the psyche, the suppressed trauma, the denied emotion, the fragmented self. The alchemy of the mind begins with acceptance. Just as the fly transforms rot into motion, awareness transforms pain into wisdom. Baalberith's infernal throne is thus an inner altar, the place where every false identity decomposes, making space for authenticity. Her true initiation is not for those who seek control, but for those who dare to release it. And in that surrender, decay becomes the language of freedom. In the end, silence is not emptiness, it's the sound of completion. The initiation of silence is the return to origin, the reconciliation of opposites, the moment the rot turns to gold. The adept, now beyond the hive, beyond the mask, beyond fear, understands that Baalberith was never the enemy. She was the teacher disguised as decay. Her rotting throne stands eternal, not because it resists corruption, but because it accepts it fully. The flies, the words, the shadows all fall quiet. And in that quiet, something timeless breathes again. Awareness without beginning, without end. Maybe you've already felt her whisper. That quiet moment when your own words sound hollow, when your reflection looks back at you and doesn't believe the story anymore. That's not madness. That's Baalberith reminding you that decay is just truth, refusing to stay buried. Every broken promise, every avoided silence, every time you looked away from yourself, those were offerings to her hive. But now you know, and knowing is how the rot begins to heal. What if you stopped running from your own corruption? What if instead of hiding it, you studied it, understood it, turned it into wisdom? That's what she's been trying to teach all along. The Queen of Flies isn't here to damn you, she's here to make you real, because only what has died in you can ever be reborn incorruptible. So tell me, what masks are still rotting on your face? What truths have you refused to speak because they'd destroy who you pretend to be? And if you finally did, if you stripped yourself bare before your own awareness, who would you become? The fly doesn't fear decay, it transforms it. Maybe it's time you learn to do the same. The next time you hear silence, don't rush to fill it. Listen. That's where her temple is built, in the pauses between your words. That's where she waits for the brave, the curious, the ones ready to unlearn everything they thought they were. If this journey stirred something in you, don't let it fade into noise. Let it become part of your awakening. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep descending with us into the mysteries of consciousness, corruption, and transcendence. Because the throne of Baalberith doesn't crumble, it grows. And maybe, just maybe, it's been growing inside you all along,